Hello, and thank you for joining us today for the Sanriku Tsunami International Webinar. Today's webinar is held in collaboration with the Aceh Tsunami Museum and the Hawaii Pacific Tsunami Museum in order to pass on the expertise of these international museums and learnings from past tsunamis to future generations and around the world. This webinar will be an opportunity for the next generation of children to understand not only the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami, but also the world's tsunami disasters and share the lessons learned through the horrible experiences caused by tsunamis. Please note that this webinar is a pre-event for the Sanriku Tsunami International Conference that will be held next year. To open this webinar, first we will have a welcome address from Iwate Tsunami Memorial Museum Director and Iwate Prefecture Governor Tasso.
Hello, my name is Tasso Takuya, Governor of Iwate Prefecture and the Director of the Iwate Tsunami Memorial Museum in Japan. First of all, I wish to extend my deepest sympathies to the victims of the earthquake and tsunami that hit Turkey and Greece in October. I sincerely hope for a swift recovery of the afflicted people and the regions affected. A huge earthquake struck off the Sanriku coast on March 2011. It was an unprecedented disaster that resulted in a total of 19,000 dead and 2,500 missing in the affected regions. In Iwate, around 5,000 lives were lost, with 1,000 still missing from this disaster. The Sanriku region has been hit by many earthquakes and tsunamis in the past. However, each time, Iwate residents worked together toward recovery. We will soon mark the 10-year anniversary of the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami. With the support of Iwate residents, along with the support from across Japan and the world, we have steadily worked to build back better. With natural disasters increasing across the world, we all must improve each person and region's disaster prevention capabilities. We want to share our experience and knowledge with people all over the world as a way to return the favor for the support we received. I believe it is very important that the three tsunami museums in Hawaii, Aceh, and Iwate go on to contribute to the world's disaster prevention and mitigation measures. We are still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let us first overcome this pandemic, then work together to pass on our lessons learned and experiences of the disaster to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor Tasso. So next, I would like to welcome all of our participants and ask each one of you to give us your self-introduction, starting with Mr. Kumagai, who is the Deputy Director of Iwate Tsunami Memorial Museum.
皆さん、こんにちは。東日本大震災津波伝承館、岩手津波メモリアル副館長の熊谷正則です。私たちのミュージアムは、日本の東北地方にあり、2011年に発生した東日本大震災津波の伝承施設として、2019年9月に開館しました。自然災害をテーマにしたミュージアムでは、世界でも最も新しい施設の一つです。新型コロナ感染症の影響で、4月から5月に40日間ほど休館しましたが、現在、感染防止対策を講じながら営業を継続しています。今日のウェビナーでは、ハワイとアチェの皆様との意見交換を通じ、一つでも多くのことを学び、実践していきたいと思います。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumagai. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Marlene Murray from the Pacific Tsunami Museum in Hawaii.
Hello, I'm Marlene Murray, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Pacific Tsunami Museum in Hilo, Hawaii. I've been with the museum since 2011 and it became its executive director in 2013. The Pacific Tsunami Museum has been around for over 26 years now. The co-founders wanted to create a place to preserve the history, the stories, and the photos from the two devastating tsunamis that impacted Hawaii in 1946 and 1960. But it wasn't only to preserve it, it was also to share the information and, most importantly, share the lessons learned. We also wanted the museum to serve as a living memorial to those who have lost their lives in past tsunami events. And although we started out with a focus on Hawaii tsunamis, we have expanded to include tsunamis from around the world, including the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami and the 2011 tsunami in Japan. Our mission is that we believe that through tsunami education and awareness, no one should die due to a tsunami.
Thank you, Marlene. Next, I would like to ask to hear from Ms. Hafnidar from the Aceh Tsunami Museum.
Hi, morning, everybody. I'm Hafni, the director of Aceh Tsunami Museum since 2008 until now. Unfortunately, today museum was closed until almost 10 months, but all activities, office activities still open for staff and some students that propose to go to the museum. But there's a big thing this year, the Museum Tsunami doing. We try to design a new design of permanent exhibition and almost finished on December. I'm very happy to be a part of this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have some participants from the academic side. So next, please, Dr. Julia Gaster.
My name is Julia Gaster, and I'm assistant professor at the Disaster Digital Archive at IDIDES Tohoku University.
Okay, thank you. And next, I would like to ask to hear from Dr. Carl Kim from the University of Hawaii.
Hi, I'm Carl Kim. I'm an urban planning professor at the University of Hawaii, where I direct our graduate program in disaster management and humanitarian assistance. I also serve as the executive director of a national FEMA center, the National Disaster Preparedness Training Center, which focuses on natural hazards. I've been to all of the three countries many times, and I look forward to interacting with you all. I wish we could be doing it face-to-face instead of virtually, but it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. And next, I would like to ask to hear from Dr. Alfie Rahman from Shakwala University in Aceh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alfie. I'm currently a lecturer at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences of Shakwala University, and also head of knowledge management in Tsunami and Disaster Mitigation Research Center, TDMRC of Shakwala University. Our institution, TDMRC, was established 2 years after the Indian Ocean tsunami, and we focus more on disaster management, and we already collaborated with many institutions around the world, including Aceh Tsunami Museum. And I'm very happy to be one of the participants for this very important event and have to learn from all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahman. And finally, I'm sorry for the delay. I should introduce myself. My name is Liz Molly, and I'm also working at IDIDES at Tohoku University in Sendai, Japan. My background is architecture and housing recovery, but I'm very happy to be part of this network and making connections between museums and academia about how we can pass on the lessons from disasters for future disaster risk reduction through our collaboration. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you today and to be part of this event, and also part of growing this network to become even stronger, to work together. Thank you so much. So next, we would like to move to the next part of our webinar, So we have received some questions from children in each one of the 3 affected areas, from each one of the places. And then I would like to ask the questions, selected questions to each one of you from the different countries. So maybe the first question.
津波てんてんこ。この言葉は津波から逃げ遅れないようにするための言葉です。
世代を超えて生き抜くための言葉は世界にもありますか？
Yes, Achenese have that like local wisdom we call smong. It's very popular now in around young generation, Aceh young generations, because long time ago there is a smong only used by the vocabs only used by some people, but now all people very familiar with smong and the lesson of the smong. The tsunami museums dedicate one room, special room, only for smong education. So we have that the same. I think it's almost same. It's like lessons and how to tell about awareness to next generation. Yes, we have that.
Thank you very much. I've had the chance to visit your beautiful smong exhibit, so I hope we have a chance to visit again soon. And it's very valuable to share our local wisdom between countries. So next, I have another question from the Japanese children, and this one I would like to ask to Marlene.
津波記念碑。岩手県には津波記念碑が200個以上あります。
海外にはそのようなものはあるのですか？
Well, I don't think we have any ancient monuments as you do in Japan. We have memorial monuments on Hawaii Island. We have the Shinmachi Memorial in Hilo, and we have another monument at Lapahoihoi Point, where several students and teachers lost their lives in the 1946 tsunami. And while we don't have monuments that warn people where not to build, such as the stones in Japan, we do have tsunami zones. The state of Hawaii is in the process of placing signs designating tsunami zones on all of the islands. And the Pacific Tsunami Museum has also created informational signs at key locations around Hawaii Island. These signs include historical information on how the area was impacted by tsunami, photos, general tsunami fact, and safety information. And we started installing these signs on the Hilo side, and next year we'll be expanding to the rest of the island. We'll also be creating signs for the other islands, starting with Kauai next year, with the eventual goal of covering every island in the state.
Great, thank you very much. That's really, really interesting and great to know about the important work that you're doing to pass on the knowledge, also very contemporarily right now in our everyday life. Great, thank you. So the next is another question, this time coming from the children, from a child from Aceh. And the question is going to go to Mr. Kumagai from Iwate Museum.
Bagaimana dampak gempa dan tsunami dan berapa lama proses pemulihannya?
2011年3月の地震津波から年明けの3月で10年となります。これまで関係者の懸命な努力と国内、海外からの多くの支援もいただき、道路、漁港、港湾施設などのインフラの復旧整備、あるいは医療機関、住宅、学校などの生活の再建は、ほぼ完成に近づいてきています。一方で、商工業など地域産業は度重なる台風被害や新型コロナ感染症の影響もあり、未だ厳しい状況にあります。また、一人暮らしの高齢者をはじめとした見守り、 あるいは心のケアを要する方々が多くいますので、保健医療福祉の支援は今後も継続的に取り組んでいく必要があります。このように震災前の暮らしを取り戻す、あるいは震災前よりもより良い暮らしを取り戻すには、長期にわたる取り組みが必要と感じています。
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumagai. I know we share our experiences with the disaster and recovery as well as the museum. So actually we are the newest disaster in Japan, and we still have a lot to learn, I think, about recovery from our friends who have the longer experience. We have the next question is also from Aceh, and this question is going to go to Marlene.
Apakah musim tsunami pernah melakukan latihan untuk masyarakat setempat?
Yes, we have. The museum is located in downtown Hilo, which is in a tsunami zone. So there's all kinds of businesses in downtown, shops, restaurants, banks. So what we do is we periodically present tsunami preparedness and evacuation training for the businesses downtown. We bring in emergency management officials to teach how to prepare their business for a tsunami, including assessing their risk, how to create an evacuation plan, how to keep their customers and their staff safe, and what to do following a disaster. Also, every April in Hawaii is Tsunami Awareness Month. And during that month, we bring in emergency management officials and invite the public to come and learn. We also bring in scientists to teach them how tsunamis impact the islands. We have scientists from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center so that they understand how the warning system works. And we believe that all of this information that we provide will help our community be prepared for the next tsunami event.
Great, thank you so much. And then finally, we also have questions coming from children from Hawaii. And the next question will be going to Mr. Kumagai.
Does your country have a warning system? How does it work?
日本は地震が多い国です。地震や津波を知らせるいくつかのシステムを国が整備しています。緊急地震速報というシステムは、地震発生直後、揺れや到着時刻、震度を予想して、可能な限り素早く知らせるもので、地震による強い揺れが始まる前に、テレビ、ラジオ、スマートフォンに一斉に情報が届きます。また、津波を予測する仕組みとしては、地震の位置や規模から推定される津波の高さと到着時刻を津波予報のデータベースから割り出し、もうすぐに津波注意報や津波警報を発表します。さらに、全国瞬時警報システム J アラートは人工衛星を利用して地方公共団体に地震や気象情報を送信して、市町村の防災行政無線が自動に起動して住民の放送が開始する仕組みが整備されています。このように地震の震度や津波の情報を国民がいち早く知り、避難行動や安全安心につなげられるように整備されています。
Thank you very much. And then for our last question from children in Hawaii, this question will go to Ms. Hafnidar in Aceh. So the question is,
do people know what to do in case there is another tsunami?
Yes, the people in Aceh after 2004, it's really gave a big impact for them and a big impact and big trauma. So it's like an automatic response if the earthquake comes, even a small earthquake, they will respond to save themselves and save a family. And a university, government still work together for risk reduction. And of course, the museums, we never sleep to make something or different way people can respond about how to save themselves.
Great. Thank you very much for all of our children who gave us all of those great questions, and for all of our museum directors who gave us their great answers. So I think hopefully in the future, we have a way to build the connections even stronger between the children from the different communities. But next, I would like to ask again, each of the museum directors a question related to children and how we can think about children and disaster education. So I think many children are visiting all of your museums. And how do you think about telling the children about tsunami disasters and recovery and reconstruction? What are your focuses, or what are your ideas, or what are your thoughts about this role of museums to educate children about disaster knowledge and disaster preparedness? And I would like to ask each one of our museum directors to answer on the same theme. But first, I would like to invite Mr. Kumagai to share his opinion about that question.
岩手津波メモリアルでは、この8月から11月にかけて、200校1万人を超える子どもたちに見学に来ていただきました。見学では、学校向けの見学プログラムを用意し、2011年に発生した東日本大震災津波の事実と教訓について映像や展示、館内に常駐する解説員が案内をしています。見学の前に学校の先生と伝承館の職員が見学コースや目的を共有しながら、命の大切さ、防災の意識、避難や備えの重要性など、学校ニーズに応じた見学コースを決めております。また、見学の事前事後学習を含めた見学の教材として、震災伝承ノートというこういったノートを作って配布をしています。年が明けますと、震災から10年、震災の記憶や経験をしていない世代が徐々に増えてきます。児童生徒、子どもたちには2011年の教訓をいかに伝え続け、次の災害に備え、一人一人の行動につなげるかが重要と考えています。
Thank you very much. How about in Hawaii? Marlene, how do you and your museum, what approach do you take to sharing the experiences with children?
Well, because the last major tsunami to impact Hawaii occurred over 60 years ago in 1960, none of the children have experienced a major tsunami. In fact, very few of the parents have experienced one. Most likely it's some of the grandparents or maybe even great-grandparents. So our challenge with children is teaching them about something that they cannot easily identify with. So we rely heavily on photos, and we have them participate in kind of a guessing game of local businesses that were destroyed by the 1946 or the 1960 tsunami. And we try to relate to them that way. They recognize the businesses now, but they may not know that the tsunamis have damaged or destroyed them in the past. And we also try to show them now and then photos, pictures of familiar areas around town. We'll show them what it looks like now, so they recognize the area. And then we show them what it looked like after the tsunami hit and all of the destruction. So we believe that showing them areas that they can identify with and then showing them the devastation from after a tsunami helps them to understand that tsunamis are real, that they've happened right here in their hometown. And we tell them that because tsunamis will happen again, it's important that they know what to do the next time a tsunami occurs. We also believe that by showing them how businesses have rebuilt after so much destruction conveys kind of a sense of strength and resilience, and hopefully instill some sense of pride in a community that was once so devastated but is now thriving.
Thank you so much. That's great. To deal with that really challenging issue of how do we tell a story that we don't have maybe somebody who experienced them themselves, and also to bring in a positive message about the local community. That's wonderful. And then I'd like to ask the same question to Bu Hafni in Aceh. How do you approach this topic of telling to the children?
We study about the children in the museum. They are very, the first thing, they are very noisy. And then when they come to the museum, for me, it's okay. Museum without children, museum without students cannot survive. And what for the museums built? And we are studying from 2018 about the student. Let's them still noisy, but give something that they can bring, like a message after visit the museum. So how to create a program so they come to the museum not only for homework from school or only for taking a picture like selfie, but something be a participant for any museum activities. So we create since 2000, we design it. We call it Smongbok. Smong is come from tsunami vocabs, and then we make the interactive is like a game. And the lessons of disasters, games, the people, community, museums, all of us can work together in one program. So it's really, really connected with school. So Mr. Alfie is one of our favorite speaker for students. And it's really, really get a positive impact. Last year, we got 600 young disaster agents in Aceh, and now maybe more than 1,000 young disaster agents of Smongbok. So the unique thing is we give a bulk with the museum object they can bring to the school or home, and they can share the story, what we give at the museum to the family, to the relative. And the young student will be the interviewer for their family, talk about, they talk each other about disasters. So museum don't have to do that by directly, but the student do that, and they share what they got to the museum, and they can create their imagine what want to do. They want to be a curator at the museum. We will facilitate to make an exhibition, or they want to make a movie. The museum will facilitate it. And on December, we will together to make something to collect all the ideas of the students.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we have so much to learn and share about your different approaches that I think is not well known yet around the world. So I think we need to keep working together and keep learning from all of you. So next, I finally would like to ask for some thoughts from our colleagues, our academic colleagues who have been joining us today as well, and ask them, how are you thinking about the role of museums, integrating the role of disaster museums for disaster risk reduction and disaster education from the point of view of the university or of the educator? And so first, I would like to ask for the comment from Dr. Carl Kim from University of Hawaii about how you see the role of museums for DRR.
Well, I think museums are very important. You know, as Marlene has described too, they play a very critical role in honoring and remembering the people, the places, the communities that have been impacted by disaster. And I think the way to think about this is it is part of the recovery process. And when we think about recovery, it's not just the physical buildings or repairing or rebuilding damaged structures. It's also about the social, psychological recovery of the community. And I think the museum plays a really critical role because you can look back, you can honor those who came together during the disaster, immediately after, as well as those who may have perished or lost loved ones in this. So I think it's very important in terms of communicating the lessons, the knowledge, the understanding, and it needs to be done in a sensitive, culturally appropriate, and manner that's integrated with the community.
Thank you very much. I know the collaboration in Hawaii between your museum and your university is really a great model, and we have a lot to learn from you. And I know already we heard a kind of parallel story in the case of Aceh, where Dr. Alfie is also working closely together with the museum. So I would like to ask Alfie the same question. How do you see the role of the museum as part of the disaster education?
Okay, thank you very much, Liz. Yeah, the critical function of the museum is really, really important, especially for the places who are affected by the tsunami, just like in Aceh. We experienced the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which more 250 million people were killed. Yeah? 250,000 people were 150,000 people were killed. And I think this is one of the critical important things for us as academia working together with the museums. Since, as I mentioned, that we established our institutions 2 years after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, in 2006, we tried to hear from the community, and we are very happy. We was very happy when our government decided to establish one of the museums to collect many knowledge from the field, as mentioned by Professor Carl Kim, that not only for structure but also in the context of Indonesia, especially Aceh, we have to also consider about the cultural aspect, especially in Aceh, for examples. And Hafnidar already mentioned about the local context about the smong. Yeah, smong is one of the indigenous knowledge related to disaster that saved lives during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami from the Smulu Islands, where only 3 people were reported killed at the times from 70,000 populations in the islands because they experienced 1907 tsunami. So they tried to create one of the local knowledge, they called it smongs, and deliver to transmit it to generation in the Smulu Islands. So from these inspirations, we need to bring this message to the museum as well. And we need to spread this one of this great lesson learned into the museums. And already mentioned by Hafni that they have a small box that I think one of the great idea. And also since 2 years ago, we also consider that we already conducted some of programs in schools that if not well implemented, which means that not continued after finish the programs, and the programs will disappear. So this is one of our big challenge. And then after that, we suggested our province governor to make one of the local regulations. We call it disaster education law. And fortunately, this month already decided as one of the law in the province level, which means that we need to, under this law, we hope we can make a good contributions, especially for continuity of disaster reductions. And also, and from this, we consider that Aceh Tsunami Museum is one of the important institutions in implement this law. So this is really important.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and best wishes to your continued success and abilities to develop further. So, and then I would like to ask the same question about what is the role of museums for DRR to my colleague Julia from Tohoku University.
Thank you very much. I think that disaster museums have a very important role in disaster risk education, but also they're facing many challenges because as a museum, they're speaking to a very diverse audience. Like on the one hand, there are many domestic visitors that might be familiar with certain kinds of disasters in that country, but on the other hand, they're also speaking to the locals who used to live in that area. So as we heard today, many museums are also acting as memorials to those who passed away in prior disasters. So there, I think it's really difficult also to keep that balance as a memorial, but also in a way having to convey lessons learned from past disasters, but also looking into the future. And at the same time, these museums also need to address issues of, for example, people who come from other countries who may not really be used to all kinds of natural hazards or who may face other kinds of natural hazards. But as we learned in past disasters, being in a different country, like being a tourist, for example, doesn't protect you from disasters that may happen in that area. So it's also very important to speak to those people to make them more aware of what could happen in that area. So yeah, I think it's this combination of like learning about the past or cultural background of that specific area and of natural hazards that may occur or might be still happening in that area, and like how to look into the future and how to learn from what has happened in the past.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for sharing your ideas and your comments. So looking ahead to the future 10 years from now, next I would like to ask from the museum directors and then from our academic colleagues to share your ideas or plans for disaster risk education to keep the memories of past disasters alive through disaster museums and exhibits. And also, please share with us your ideas about how we can strengthen these activities through our cooperation and collaboration between the 3 tsunami museums in Japan, Hawaii, and Aceh. And first, I would like to ask to hear from Mr. Kumagai about the future ideas.
ミュージアムの震災伝承の活動については、今後も永続的に行っていくことが重要と考えています。今回、子どもたちに質問を考えてもらう際に、ハワイとアチェを紹介する授業を行いまして、グループでディスカッションをして質問を考えてもらいました。非常に効果的に津波災害の学びを深めることができました。世界の他の地域の津波災害を知ることは、学びを深めることに大変有効であると分かりました。ぜひ、マーリン館長やハフニダール館長が日本に来てもらって、子どもたちに直接対話や交流する機会がこれからあればいいなと思っています。伝承館には様々なお客さんが来ます。中でも、次世代を担う子どもたちには、これからも持続的に来てほしいと考えています。子どもたちへの効果的な学びについて皆さんと研究議論を重ね、3つのミュージアムで共有する 独自の防災学習プログラムなどが作成できれば、非常に素晴らしい成果になるのではないかと思っています。岩手県では震災を機会に各学校で復興教育を推進しています。子どもたち全員に副読本を作成し配っていますが、そのすべてのものに伝承館が紹介されています。こういったものになります。開くと、私たちのミュージアムのその消防自動車、被災した消防自動車が載っております。こういった副読本を活用して授業で復興教育を進めていますが、岩手県のすべての子どもたちがふるさとを愛し、復興、発展を支える人材になれるよう、復興教育、防災教育を推進する。それを通じて自然災害に強いまちづくりの実現につなげようという活動です。岩手津波メモリアルはその学びの場として学校と連携した取り組みに重点的に今後も取り組んでいきたいと思っています。
Thank you very much. I think what you're highlighting as the importance of the museum and the connection with the local community and future generations is the goals that we all share, and I know we look forward to working together with you for the long term. And next, I would like to ask Marlene the same question about in Hawaii, how do you see the long-term plans or long-term goals for collaboration?
Well, I would say that we will continue to do what we have been doing for the last 26 years. Our mission again is promoting tsunami education and awareness to save lives. And our staff and our docents know that every time they speak to someone about tsunamis, they're potentially saving their lives or perhaps the lives of their families and others. And our hope is that because they took the time to visit the museum, if they ever find themselves under the threat of tsunami, they'll know what to do to get themselves to safety. And we continually update our exhibits. This year, we renovated the local tsunamis exhibit, and we're in the process of updating the Japan tsunamis exhibit. We're also adding a brand new natural hazards exhibit featuring hurricanes, landslides, flooding, and volcanic activity. And although our focus will always be tsunamis, we recognize that there's a lot of other natural hazards that impact us. So we want to broaden our focus a little bit to keep people safe from whatever the universe sends our way. As far as cooperation between the museums in Japan and Aceh, as well as other tsunami museums around the world, forums like the one today are such a wonderful opportunity to share our common goals and missions, as well as our unique challenges. And as the governor mentioned in his opening remarks, right now, the biggest challenge for everyone is getting through the pandemic. But a common theme when the museums get together is how do we keep the memories alive? And it's a challenge for all of us, but we all agree that tsunamis will happen again, and everyone needs to be educated and prepared on what to do. So I look forward to more of these opportunities to exchange ideas with my fellow museums from around the world. Just today, I learned, and I love the idea from Aceh about how the children become ambassadors and how they take what they learned back home to share with their families. And while these virtual events are great, hopefully we will be able to get through COVID and do this in person next year. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for reminding us that really what we're doing is the purpose is to save lives, and I think we really are all together on that goal. So I would like to ask Ms. Hafnidar from Aceh the same question. What's your long-term vision or future hopes for cooperation and collaboration?
museum serve many people and many intentions of visitors. So yes, Marilyn, right. This is the second time I met you in the Zoom meeting. We have still keep work together even in different countries, but we have the same institution to work. What the big challenge of us and what the problems and how to share this, what the solutions of the problem. It's really good for to know the visitor need. Maybe different in Hawaii or in Aceh, but we will have the same. Maybe we can approach them with the same technique, and I think we cannot stop just on discussing, but we can do more than that, like collaborations with an exhibition or adoption the program. So for the museum today, I'm not think that to build the museum physically is not important, but the program, we want create more interactive program with children, because the original program from Aceh Tsunami Museum. So the children cannot remember go to the museum only one times or three times, but they, because the program, they have connected with the museum, so they can go no limit, not time limit to go to the museum, because I want to meet Miss Marlene, I want to meet Mr. Alfie at the museums, I want to meet anyone at the museum, and the museum is opened the big door for them. And the next day, Aceh Tsunami Museum didn't want, they come to the museum, but we will come to them.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have the interactive ways of connecting and building those connections, and especially as we're facing the pandemic and extra restrictions on our movements and our abilities to connect in real life. I'd like to ask the same question on the same theme about ideas for long-term sustainability and long-term collaboration, also to our academic colleagues. So first to Dr. Kim, how would you think about that?
Well, I think this is a very important topic. You know, I have my day job is just to work with graduate students, master's and PhD students who are very focused and motivated, and you know, that's primarily what I do. And then I also do a lot of executive training for, we train emergency managers and first responders as part of our FEMA center. And I realize that we need to do a lot more in terms of community engagement, working more closely with communities, because I think it really is about lifelong learning. That learning occurs not just in the classroom or at the university, but actually in businesses, in corporations, in government, and other agencies and community organizations. And so we've been trying to do more of that as well too. You know, through our FEMA and USAID projects, we try to partner with different agencies to promote this sort of lifelong learning. I would also like to add that oftentimes we can learn from children because of the clarity of the values, of the sense of what's right and wrong, which sometimes gets lost in terms of the politics, the, you know, the technology and so many other complications. So I think that there are really great opportunities to build on these partnerships. I hope that, you know, one of the things about this pandemic is that we've also our center used to train 8,000 people per year face-to-face. We've had to shift to online deliveries now. And so I think some of that will continue after even the vaccine and after the pandemic. And so I think there may be other ways of reaching out and connecting both within our community, but also across communities.
Thank you. I love that point that we can learn from children. I think that's a really great way of thinking about maybe new opportunities as well, new ways of thinking, and always keep lifelong learning as well. I'd like to ask Dr. Rahman the same question to you in Aceh context. How do you see long-term sustainability at DRR?
I just try to add as another additional suggestions and maybe comments that already highlighted by many of the calls and Marlene, Hafnidar, and also from Sanriku College, that I want to highlight about the specific context, especially cultural aspect. For example, how to bring the complexity of science related to the disaster into the simple and specific context of visitors, especially for a person who did not experience the previous disaster. So it's also should be considered because they have no information about what had happened in the past. So we have to bring a very simple message to them that will be help them to make a good and also actions if the listeners. Yeah, especially for locals, context, national, and also international. So we can get lesson learned from other places, other institutions could be implemented in the museum, especially in the Aceh Tsunami Museum. And one, at least, please also consider the group people in our community, yeah, who very vulnerable, especially in Aceh context after 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. And currently we are preparing to commemorate 16 years of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. It seems like what happened in the 2004 could not recognize now. So the people could not recognize where's the place that infected by the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. This is also one of the homework. And I'm very happy for what Hafni already mentioned about the strategy, not only to with visitors in the museum, but also we need to visit our community and teach them. And also this is also one way to encourage our community to visit museum and to get more comprehensive knowledge related to the disaster, especially as tsunami in the museums. That's all other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's so important. You mentioned about how we deal with conveying the information, not only the science, but also the experience and how that needs to be modified, and also how we face the challenges going forward over time and when the memories may be fading, and how we deal with that as well. Finally, I'd like to ask the same question to Dr. Julia Gaster from Tohoku University about long-term thinking about sustainable DRR museums.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think one of the most interesting parts of today's event is also to kind of learn that basically everybody's facing similar challenges all over the world. So one of the main questions is like, how can we keep memories alive after such a long time? And yeah, I think we saw like several really creative ways of how to tackle these challenges. Like for instance, with the children ambassadors, like how can we kind of make children aware or also feel important within this within disaster risk education. So it's not just something that might happen to them passively, but that they can actively like take a role within disaster risk education. And then we also heard from Hawaii about the picture projects, like playing with the children or taking the children to places that they actually know, and having them interact with their environment to see that this is nothing that may happen to other people, or this is nothing that they or that tsunamis are something that doesn't concern them just because they haven't experienced it yet, but they can kind of see how people who they know cope with these experiences. So overall, I think emotions are also very important in like keeping these memories alive. So finding creative ways of how to convey experiences of people that children, for example, might not know personally anymore, but that they still kind of can connect to these experiences and think about, oh, what would I do in such a situation? So yeah, I think today was a very good opportunity to kind of exchange what's going on in other countries and how people all over the world kind of think about common problems.
Thank you very much for that great summary of our key challenges, and also thank you to all of our participants for their insights and their knowledge and their ideas. And we are getting close to the end of today's session, but I do want to open up the floor for any last comments or ideas that you would like to share with us, if anybody has anything to add.
When I visited the Aceh Museum some years ago, I was impressed that it also served as an evacuation demonstration project as well too. And I know I was actually in Aceh to study the tsunami evacuation buildings that JICA and others constructed following the tsunami. And I thought it was really quite interesting to see that the way that the museum was designed, and you could learn about evacuating and going up in the structure. I think that's really important to make these connections between the environment and planning and where the hazards and threats are the greatest. And so if we can use the physical space, the gathering space, in a way to do that. I like what Marlene was describing in terms of having the students and others identify places that they're familiar with, but also we should be thinking about that within the context of evacuation or other protective actions that we can take.
Any other comments? Any response from? Please start it.
Thank you. It's a brilliant idea of architect that designed museums, and the rooftop become the evacuation place, and everyone can use that. We still opened the space for simulations or real evacuation for student community. And it's good news this year. We have a plan, but I'm almost finished with that. We repair the rooftop, and there's a park that people can use. So we want the people familiar with evacuation areas. So what we do, like make up the rooftop to be not like a rooftop, but everyone can enjoy the rooftop, but we will transfer the education. The rooftop is for evacuation, but to make the people want to go to the rooftop, it's like you can't drink or you can eat at a tsunami rooftop, and then we transfer the education.
Any other final comments?
Can I add some things, please? Based on our experience in the 2012 earthquake that hit in Aceh, many people in Aceh did not use evacuation center as to save their lives. So most of people ran from the coastal by using horizontal evacuations, not vertical evacuations. So this is one of the big challenges, because one of the functions of Aceh Tsunami Museum is as evacuations tests if the tsunami comes. So we need to encourage this also, to get trust of the people, to also use the evacuations building just like Aceh Tsunami Museums in case we need to evacuate our staff. So this is also one of lesson learned from us in Aceh that need to consider. That's why things also should be noted by us.
Thank you. I think we have shared so much information, but we have so many things we can keep talking about in this conversation. So, but maybe today we're almost at the end of our time, but I'm sure we are going to continue to have great, strong knowledge sharing collaborations going forward as well. But for today, I just would like to thank you all again for sharing your time and your knowledge and your thinking with us. And thank you for joining the Sanriku Tsunami International Webinar. And then just again to say that today's event was held as a pre-event for the Sanriku International Tsunami Conference, which will take place in November 2021. And then at that international conference held in Japan, we hope that all of the directors of each museum will continue to discuss more deeply how we pass on the lessons learned from disasters and how we engage in disaster risk education for our next generations in the future. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, finished.